Every day, we're told to stay positive, smile more, be grateful, look on the bright side. But what if that constant chase for positivity is quietly making us miserable? Because real life isn't all sunshine and affirmations. It's messy, it's uncertain, and sometimes it hurts. Dr. Susan David, a psychologist at Harvard, calls this the problem of emotional rigidity. It's what happens when we fight our emotions instead of feeling them, when we hide sadness behind forced smiles, or pretend we're fine when our hearts are breaking. We think we're being strong, but what we're really doing is cutting ourselves off from the truth that could set us free. You've probably done it before. You tell yourself, "I'm okay," when you're not. You scroll through your phone instead of sitting with discomfort. You turn pain into productivity and emotions into to-do lists. That's not emotional intelligence. That's emotional avoidance. Dr. David says, discomfort is the price of admission to a meaningful life. Emotions, even the painful ones, are not your enemies. They are data, not directions. They tell you what matters, what needs attention, and what deserves change. Emotional agility begins when we stop judging our emotions and start listening to them. Because you can't change what you don't allow yourself to feel. So, what exactly is emotional agility? Dr. Susan David defines it as the ability to be with your thoughts and emotions with curiosity, compassion, and courage. Then choose your response based on your values. It's not about controlling your feelings. It's about dancing with them, moving gracefully through life's emotional changes without being trapped by them. Imagine your emotions as waves. You can't stop the tide. You can't demand that the ocean be calm, but you can learn how to surf. That's emotional agility. Feeling everything, anger, sadness, joy, frustration, without letting any single emotion define who you are. The opposite of agility is emotional rigidity. That's when people get stuck in one emotional state, permanently anxious, always defensive, or obsessed with staying happy at all costs. They cling to a single way of feeling, and when life shifts, they break instead of bend. But agility gives you flexibility. It's emotional strength with movement. The ability to stay grounded even when the ground changes beneath you. Neuroscience backs this up. When you practice emotional agility, acknowledging your emotions instead of suppressing them, your brain's prefrontal cortex, the decision-making center, stays active. That means you think more clearly, communicate better, and recover faster from stress. You stop reacting automatically. You start responding intentionally. So, emotional agility isn't about ignoring negativity. It's about giving every emotion a seat at the table, then choosing which voice gets to guide your actions. That's how mature emotional intelligence works. You don't let emotions drive the car, but you don't kick them out of the vehicle either. Most of us were never taught how to feel. We were taught how to fix. When sadness shows up, we rush to distract ourselves. When anger rises, we try to suppress it. When fear appears, we label it as weakness. But emotions are not problems to solve. They're signals to understand. Dr. Susan David says, emotional agility starts with one question. What is this emotion trying to tell me? That question changes everything. Sadness might be telling you that something you value is missing. Anger might be signaling that a boundary has been crossed. Anxiety might be reminding you that something important is uncertain. When you approach emotions with curiosity instead of control, you transform pain into information. Think about a child crying. If you tell them, "Stop crying, you're fine," they learn to hide. But if you say, "It's okay to cry, tell me what's wrong," they learn to trust. Your emotions are the same way. If you constantly silence them, they don't disappear. They just find quieter, more painful ways to be heard. So instead of saying, "I shouldn't feel this," try saying, "I notice I'm feeling this. Why?" That shift from judgment to observation is the first act of self-compassion. Researchers call this emotional labeling. When you name your emotion, anger, fear, guilt, or shame, you activate language centers in the brain and calm the limbic system, the part that triggers stress. In simple terms, naming a feeling helps tame it. Emotional agility doesn't mean being happy all the time. It means being honest all the time. Because when you stop fighting what you feel, you finally start learning from it. Once you've noticed your emotions without judgment, the next step is where emotional agility becomes real power, choice. Because emotional maturity isn't about not feeling. It's about not letting feelings decide for you. Dr. Viktor Frankl, the Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, wrote, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space lies our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." That space, however small, is where emotional agility lives. When something upsets you, you don't have to react immediately. You can pause, breathe, and ask, "What action aligns with my values right now?" That question moves you from reaction to intention. Imagine a coworker sends you a rude email. Your first impulse might be anger. Your rigid self wants to reply sharply, to prove a point, to win the moment. But your agile self pauses. It notices the anger, understands it's protecting your sense of respect, and chooses to respond with clarity instead of aggression. That's emotional agility in motion. Feeling the emotion fully, but responding wisely. Neuroscientifically, this pause activates the prefrontal cortex, which overrides the amygdala's fight-or-flight impulse. That means you stop being a slave to instinct and become a partner with your emotions. It's not suppression, it's integration. You still feel, but you choose how to act. As Dr. Susan David says, "Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is fear walking." You don't wait to feel ready or calm. You act in alignment with your values, even when emotions are loud. Because growth doesn't happen when you erase emotions. It happens when you navigate them. Here's the truth. You can't always control what you feel, but you can always choose what you stand for. That's what Dr. Susan David calls values-based living, the heart of emotional agility. Because emotions change by the hour, but your values, honesty, kindness, creativity, integrity, are your compass when everything else spins. Imagine you're driving through fog. You can't see far ahead, but if you know your direction, you won't get lost. Your emotions are like the weather, unpredictable. Your values are like the map, steady. When anger rises, your values remind you to speak firmly but fairly. When fear whispers, "Stay small," your values remind you why courage matters. When sadness visits, your values remind you that love was real. That's the magic of emotional agility. You stop chasing feelings and start following meaning. Dr. David says most people live by emotional autopilot. They do what feels comfortable, avoid what feels painful, and confuse familiar with right. But emotionally agile people act from choice, not comfort. They ask, "What matters to me in this moment? What kind of person do I want to be right now?" Those questions turn chaos into clarity. Your emotions will always fluctuate. That's being human. But your values can stay constant. That's being conscious. When you live guided by values, you don't suppress emotions. You steer through them. And that's where true strength begins. Not in being perfect, but in being present. Emotional agility isn't about controlling life. It's about learning how to dance with it. There will always be fear. There will always be uncertainty. But if you meet each emotion with curiosity instead of judgment, you stop fighting reality and start flowing with it. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. Let's remember the journey. You learned that emotions are data, not directions. That labeling them helps you tame them. That between stimulus and response, there's always a choice. And that your values, not your moods, should guide your behavior. That is emotional agility, the freedom to feel everything without being defined by anything. Dr. Susan David often tells her students, life's beauty is inseparable from its fragility. We can't have joy without vulnerability, or meaning without discomfort. But when we hold our emotions lightly, not clutching, not avoiding, we discover something extraordinary. We are not our feelings. We are the ones who can watch them, name them, and choose what to do next. So next time life shakes you, don't ask, how can I get rid of this feeling? Ask, what is this feeling trying to teach me? Because when you learn to move with your emotions instead of against them, you don't lose control. You find freedom. Stay agile, stay aware, and I'll see you in the next video.